90-10 rule for your marriage. Okay, so this is around communication, and you're going to see how it fits in to the space that you need to create with your wife. So 90-10 rule refers to you should be talking 10% of the time while your wife is talking 90% of the time. Okay? 90-10 rule is around the ratio of who's engaged, whose mouth is moving when you're trying to create an emotionally safe space for your wife. Okay? Which is critical. Again, emotional safety and security from you as a husband is your job towards your wife. And the bare minimum is the 90-10 rule. Okay? That's like the bare minimum where you start. Okay? You may not be fully engaged in the 90% when she's talking. You may not be fully present and hearing her and understanding and getting her feelings, but you want to get to that baseline where your wife is able to express. So if you're talking, 100 minutes, just to keep the math simple, 100 minutes with your wife, you're in communication for 100 minutes with your wife, 90 minutes, she's talking, 10 minutes, you are talking, okay? 80-20 is acceptable, but you want to go for 90-10 to create that kind of level of safety, all right? So that's to answer what the 90-10 rule is and how it's related. Now, contextually, look at your job, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a corporation, you've been in meetings, some sort of meetings where there's a lot of people. And you notice that sometimes, and John is one of them, sometimes you'll see these people that they're the last to speak. They just sit quietly, they observe, they listen, they take it in, they let everybody go. And then at the end, they speak some gold, right? They actually add huge value, even though they spoke probably 10% of the time out of the whole meeting, and that too, they were the last ones to do it. So contextually, that's what I want you to take on, okay? When you're speaking with your wife, attempt to hold off speaking as much as possible. And then when you are speaking, there's strategies that we'll talk about as to what that 10% should represent. Because that 10% shouldn't be just you talking about your own stuff. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. There's strategies that you can use in how to utilize that 10%. Okay? But become the man capable of listening to your wife for 90% of the time out of that 100 minutes or whatever minutes, but take the ratio, right? It doesn't have to be exact. We're just giving you kind of a rule of thumb, okay? To drive home the fact that creating emotional safety and security, a big part of that is how you communicate with your wife. And a baseline of that is you giving her the space to do that.
Yeah, and again, we touched on knowledge being half the, or awareness being half the battle, right? So now you've heard this, and it's about, okay, pay attention in the next conversation, right? Start seeing, okay, who is doing the majority of the speaking, and then start working towards that 90-10. Right? The 90-10 isn't just going to happen overnight, but if you're mindful and you're aware of it and you're moving towards it, you do get there. Right, and there are other tools and other components to make that more feasible for you. But as I said, awareness, stop paying attention to the situations that you're in, primarily with your wife, and go, oh, I'm the one that's, when I come home in the evening, I'm the one that vomits all over in relation to what happened in my day, and then I go watch TV. Right, so as I said, it's just about paying attention to what's going on and then start altering what's going on if it's not aligned with some of these tools and systems that we're giving you.
And consequences are there, right? Like if you cannot do this 90-10 rule, and again, just starting with this baseline of, okay, I'm gonna chill, I'm gonna be present, and I'm gonna really let my wife talk. and I'm going to ask her questions, open-ended questions, to pull more out of her. I'm going to, with my way of being, clearly communicate to her that I'm curious, I want to know more, it's safe, and this is her stage. Okay? Now, typically, if you're unable to do that as a man, it's because one of these two reasons or both combined, right? You're insecure, you have insecurity that's firing up. So your wife is saying something and your insecurities are firing, you're getting triggered. And that's when you interrupt, that's when you cut her off and try to explain the situation to convince her that it's not true. That's when over-explaining happens. That's where justification happens. That's where you snap at her. All those behaviors that you know don't serve the relationship. That all comes from insecurity, right? You're having a chit-chat with your wife. She says something, and boom, you react. The other thing, which is more related to even if you can do the 90-10, but you're not fully there, you're not fully present, you're not fully hearing what she's saying, you're listening, but it goes in here, comes out here, that's distraction. You are distracted. There's too many distractions going on in your life that are showing up in that conversation. This can be distracted in your personal life, distraction around work, distraction of the person you're speaking to, which your wife, right? So when you are able to clear your distractions and start to get rid of your insecurities, pull your bullets, then 90-10 becomes very easy, because what your wife is saying to you in conversation is no longer a threat. It's not a threat. So you can hear it. There's no reason for you to react. There's no reason for you to react, to lash out, or to correct her, or to have the need to be right. All of those things that men typically do. All right. So if you've been following us for a while, you probably have noticed a couple of commonalities in our lives and trainings, specifically two. One is the difference between, I'm just seeing how the camera is, the difference between the difference between feminine and masculine. Okay, that's one, feminine and masculine. Okay, and then the other one is emotional well-being, right? Your bullets, your insecurities, getting rid of that, providing emotional safety, security for your wife. These are our two backbones. These are two backbones which are critical to be in place for your marriage to work. Okay? And you're starting hopefully to see, if you've been watching us and following us, that it's like a spine, right? Like you have your spine, and off of your spine comes the rest of your body, your hands, your arms, your neck, your head, right? If your spine's not working in various sections, then your extremities and other body parts will be impacted. They won't be working as well. If you have a problem with some of the discs up here, you're going to have a problem with your neck, moving your head, or potentially your shoulder or your hands, right? If you have a lower discs issue, you could be having a problem walking. You may not be able to walk. This is no different, okay? You're starting to see the impact of emotionality and the difference between feminine and masculine, its impact on communication, sex, intimacy, emotional, physical affairs, right? What works in a marriage, confidence. So I really want to emphasize this, because once you understand that this is the spine and everything feeds off of this, things become very easy to grasp, and you'll start to make the connections a lot easier, and it'll motivate you much faster to understand the difference between feminine and masculine, and to get to an emotionally healthy space in your life where you are on top of that.
Yeah, and again, it's going back to the simplicity, right? Like we designed the program so that it's simple to understand. Some aspects of it are not easy to implement, and for different men, they're challenged by different components of it, right? But the principles are simple, This is not like, hey, I need a science degree to figure this stuff out, because you can't make that applicable to the masses. What you can make applicable to the masses is simplicity. But inside this simplicity, or coupled with the simplicity, is, okay, there are aspects that may be difficult to implement. And the aspects that are difficult to implement are independent for each man.
Yeah.
Like for some men, it may be, hey, I can't switch off my phone to actually stay present with my wife. Like, that's a big challenge for him. For some other man, it's, hey, actually connecting with other men is a challenge for him. For other men, it's, doing some of the emotional work, and so on and so on. But as I said, that the understanding of the foundations of the entire program are simple, because we want men to be able to achieve the results that are available.